my second outline is just a derivation from that first outline, where you're just going to take out the personal greeting and get right into the body of your newsletter. This is really great for folks that are wanting a shorter newsletter, especially if you're wanting to write like 1 or 2 paragraphs. You're not going to have a personal introduction and then get into it. You're just going to get into it, right? Now, I will say that if you choose to do this, you need to make sure that the first sentence or 2 are serving the purpose of capturing the reader's attention, since you don't have that personal paragraph that is going to draw people in. Make sure you're catching their attention and you're also getting to the point really quickly. So that maybe the first sentence or 2, make sure it's enticing and also relevant to the topic of the rest of the paragraphs. And you want to make sure that even though, because you're lacking that sort of personal dimension, you want to make sure that it still sounds like you're talking to someone you know really well. And you might insert a joke or 2 to keep it feeling personal, even though it's mostly business related content. So this example is probably my favorite example that we're going to look at tonight, because I think it's so doable and it does such a good job at what it's doing. So here is just a straightforward letter, and you can see most of it right here. So it starts out by saying, tomorrow's one of my favorite concerts of the season. And I think that's a really good way to start, because it's sort of like, ooh, it's personal. She's saying like, this is one of my favorite things. So we're getting some insight into what she likes to do, but also it's like, oh, I want to know more. What is your favorite? So I want to answer that question already. And she gets right into it in the second sentence. Actually, the first paragraph gives us pretty much all the information we would need about this event. So she's saying it's an event. It's a culmination of a 3-month-long young composer workshop in collaboration with Forward Music Project. And so she's working with students, and then she describes what's happening in the photo. Then the second and the third paragraphs give context for the event. So things, sort of background, how long she's been working on it, and also people that she's collaborating with. Then the fourth paragraph, this is where you get the sense of like gratitude, talking about her students and being very complimentary towards her students. She says, I got to hand it to these kids. They did an amazing job as first-time composers. I'm in awe of their mature self-expression, willingness to be vulnerable, and their creativity. Tears are guaranteed. So I think it's just, again, the tone, very casual, very friendly, as if she knows she's talking to someone she knows. But also there's that element of gratitude, of spending some time talking about the students instead of just talking about the work itself. And then here at the end, this is the call to action, this fifth paragraph. And what I expect from the letter is not what we get here in the call to action. So what I was expecting from the beginning paragraph is that the call to action would be for us to come to the event. But then you realize, oh, the event is the next day. So she's not asking her audience to drop everything and come to this event. Instead, she's saying, if you'd like to partner with Forward Music Project at your school, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. Now, this isn't going to apply to everyone on the subscriber list, undoubtedly. But it's not, she doesn't use the same call to action every letter. Just here, she's like, I'm doing this thing. It's really cool. If you happen to be at a school, hit me up, right? Because she wants to do more work like this. This is her favorite type of work to do. So I think that makes sense. And I think it's just a really effective call to action there. There are a couple links embedded in the first paragraph as well. Let's see, anything else I wanted to point out? The photo, we're not going to go too much into design, but the photo here is perfect. Research shows that photos with people, candid shots, so people doing something, are the best performing in email marketing. So you want not posed, but just relaxed photos with people in them is the best. And I love that she explains what's happening in the photo, because you could assume a million things from this photo, what sort of event she's performing at. She addresses the reader by name there in the first line. See, I think I covered all of that. Yeah. Great. Okay. So one other example I wanted to show you this, I think there's two more examples actually. This example I like because it's choosing one of those prompts from the body paragraph prompts that I gave you and just doing that. That's it. And I like that. I like this as an example. So here it starts out by saying, our operations manager just received this note from a concert presenter. Now, you may not have concert presenters, you may have customers, you may have collectors, you may have fans, people who have given you feedback. Feedback would be a great thing to include in your newsletter with their permission, of course. And this bit of feedback is, of course, absolutely glowing. So the person is saying that there was the biggest audience that they've had in years for this group. The group was musically accomplished, but also such a pleasure to work with. They were so friendly. And even though this venue doesn't usually have repeat performers, they're going to make an exception for this group. So it's absolutely glowing, you know, covering the group from all angles. So if you have some feedback about you or your work that's like this, of course, that would be a wonderful thing to include in your newsletter. After that, they just are linking to a promotional video that they've just completed. And this is the main call to action. They link it here and then they link it again at the very, very end of the email. And then they just have their touring season there and some quotes from reviews. So you can see here, this is probably mostly aimed at folks that would book them, right? So it's not only is it a review from someone, but also we have links to this promotional video. All right, and then the last example here before we do some questions and then talk about welcome letters is something completely different. So this is, so you saw an example of a blend of personal and business. You saw two that were mostly business and didn't have the personal paragraph, but they were all business. And now here's one that's mostly all personal. Now, this person has made a business out of just his newsletter. He has so many subscribers now, but I don't think that you need a giant subscriber list and a big name to make your newsletter something like this. I think adding maybe upcoming events to it for some of you folks would be great, but I think that it's, you know, it's very casual and it's very fun. So basically his newsletter comes out weekly. I'm not suggesting that, but his newsletter does come out weekly, and he just says 10 things that he thought were worth sharing each week. That's the sort of gist of his newsletter. This particular one, he's talking mostly about shows that he's watching, movies he's watching, video games he's playing, because I think he's been sick is what he says. But sometimes it's new places that he's going, it's new art that he's seeing, it's, you know, whatever, things that he's reading, whatever it is. His very last, no, I can't see it. His very last point on this newsletter is a call to action. He's saying, oh, by the way, having a book signing as that last bullet point. So he's got a call to action there. And then he says, you know, thanks for sharing. If you'd like to buy a book or a t-shirt, he's got some links embedded there. And then he's got a link to subscribe to the newsletter and to see past issues at the very end. And then sign off and some images there. So I like this because it's, again, something very consistent that you could do week to week. Maybe you don't do 10, maybe you do 5, and then you put your events calendar or awards that you've won recently, or, you know, just like a current events section after that. But I think this sort of more personal approach is fun, and it could be another option for some of you.